Good day, everyone. Historically, many large-scale industries have been male-dominated. Today, I'm joined by someone who's not only established a presence in one such industry, but she's actually been recognized as one of the top 100 global inspirational women in mining. Hi, everyone. Please help me welcome Michillay Brown.
Thank you very much. Hi, Tamon. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
It's an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
I know that we've been struggling to meet each other, but I'm glad that we did today.
Awesome. What most of you might not know is that I'm very good friends with Michillay Brown, but I think because people don't know you, do you want to maybe take the time just to run them through who Michillay Brown is?
Sure, absolutely. So as Tabanga said, Michillay Brown over here. I'm born and bred in Johannesburg, so I haven't actually lived anywhere outside of the city when I was a child. I then moved to a couple of different places in the east of Johannesburg. So we lived in Yeoville, we then lived in Bellevue as well. And I went to primary school there called Houghton Primary, which shaped a lot of the experiences in the way that I am today. I actually know some of your friends, we went to school together as well. I then moved around with my mom, my sister and my stepdad at the time, and we then moved to Melville and spent a number of years living in Melville. I've got my mom with me here today, as well as my sister that I'm staying with as well, and my little niece. But growing up, I grew up with my stepdad predominantly, and then regularly had visits from my biological father as well. But I'd say my childhood was a very happy, positive time in my life. Yes, we moved around quite a bit, but then found quite a bit of stability in the Melville Northcliffe area where I am today. And I've then subsequently moved over and I'm staying in the UK, and that's for the work that I'm doing at the moment, which we'll get into at some point.
Yeah, well, I guess you've pretty much led us into the next portion of this, which is, can you give us an idea of your career trajectory from the time you left university?
Absolutely. I'll probably start with when I was in university, just to give people a little bit of background. When I was in university, I studied an undergrad in environmental management. I actually did it in the most difficult way possible, and I actually did distance learning for my undergraduate degree. So I was with the University of South Africa, and I was interested in subjects that were around environmental sustainability, socio-economic development issues as well. I really found that to be my passion and what I wanted to study and look into. I then graduated successfully, which was fantastic. But one of the things I do like to let people know is while I was studying, I was working as well. So it wasn't just the distance learning, I was full on working, trying to get experience. I started off working with the Greenpeace NGO, and I was a researcher for them. So did a lot of different research on development in Africa. I then moved from there, and this is all while studying, so I just want to stress that. While studying, I then also worked for Eskom, whom we all know very well on our side of the world. I worked in their climate change and sustainability department, where once again learned so much about the natural environment and how much Eskom is doing to plug back into certain jurisdictions that they are working in as well. I also worked for KPMG, so I'm not sure if I'm meant to be name dropping on this, but just letting you know my path, and got some experience in their department as well as an intern. So one of the big threads within that while working and studying is I was able to at least afford my studies, number one, but also make sure that I am actually getting myself practically into the thing that I'm studying from a theoretical perspective. And just making sure that I know that this is the path that I want to be on. I then moved from there and I became an environmental educational officer during my last year of my studies. So that was with a place called Delta Environmental Center. And that was more teaching young pupils about sustainability and the importance of it. These were pupils that were not being offered that same curriculum within their schools. So they would come to the center and get taught by the likes of myself and other people that I worked with. I then moved into my honors. It feels like I've had a very long life, but moved into my honors year and In my honours year, I got accepted into Wits University and I did my Bachelor of Science degree in Human Geography. Now, a lot of people that I speak to go, what on earth is that? And, you know, what does it consist of?
Yeah.
Just the other day, I met someone who also studied Human Geography and they were so excited to meet me because it's not a common thing to study. But again, it covered things like climate change, like socioeconomic development issues, environmental policy, EIAs for the environmental impact assessments for those that know. So I took a lot of those subjects and I was building up my profile, my level of expertise and skills in that. And once again, was doing my internships at the same time. I also enrolled myself in something called the Miss Earth South Africa. Miss Earth South Africa is a leadership program and it's directly related to women being empowered in sustainability and giving back to their communities in various ways. Another way that I think that shaped a lot of who I am today. It also balanced me out being heavy in the studies but also practically working on the ground. Got to the end of my honours year and I applied for the AngloAmerican graduate program. BLAST is what it was called then. I got plucked out of 3,000 people around the country. We were drilled down to 11 people that got chosen to be a graduate within AngloAmerican's program. Yep, so this was quite a journey. You'd like me to get into the AngloAmerican journey as well?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It feels like it's been a very long time, but it hasn't. So I started in their sustainability department, their safety and sustainability, as an environmental assurance specialist. That's the one. Where I worked on rolling out environmental management systems, auditing as well, and reporting. And that was my first role. It was great for experience, but I knew that I wanted to be broader and I wanted to see a lot more in my own space. The sustainability umbrella is huge. It just needs you to understand where you want to go in that direction, but you also need quite a bit of guidance.
Yeah.
It was good for a first experience, but I then knew I wanted to see something on a larger scale. Now, as part of the program, you get offered an international assignment. I decided to choose to go to London, to the UK, and I joined the International and Government Relations Department there. Absolutely incredible department. And they were covering the international relations in sustainability on a global scale. So I looked at things like human rights, the ethical value chain, climate change, really right up my alley, but now interfacing with global governments, global stakeholders, other mining companies as well. My role has been very external facing, and it's just meant that I've learned so much and I've gotten to know so much about the world in itself. I spent about 18 months there. And then I knew that I was ready for a change. I think you get that itch around 18 months, 2 years. Yeah. But it was also now time for me to see what my next role would be within the program itself. And a fantastic opportunity came with a subsidiary of AngloAmerican, De Beers Group. And I knew nothing about diamonds. And the other thing I knew nothing about was tech. And those were the two things I was about to go into. So I joined the team called Tracer. Tracer uses blockchain, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things to actually trace diamonds from the time it comes out of the ground all the way to the consumer. This to me sounded exciting. A very, very small percentage of the world is actually doing this or able to do this. And Tracer is the only diamond industry use case pulling this off. So me being me, was like, I know nothing about any of that, let's do it. And I went for my interview, got into this, and you know, I've never regretted it ever since. Yeah. So started off with that role as the partner relations manager for the team. I'm now the industry transformation lead at Tracer.
Yeah. So that's a mouthful.
Sorry, that was a mouthful.
Mouthful of roles. But I think on that, look, although it sounds like it's so many different streams, I think I'm picking out a connecting string, sustainability as a thread that's running through everything. Do you want to maybe touch on why sustainability is important to you?
Absolutely. It's definitely the thread and it will always be there. That's one thing I'm not letting go of. It's important to me, Tavam, because I feel like I will not be able to be in a high-flying corporate career if I don't see it linked to some sort of purpose. That's just the honest truth. If I'm not seeing how we are making other people's lives better in any other way, then what are we actually doing? Are we just there to consume, to take away from, to capitalize on, or are we also doing our part to give back? And that's not a byproduct of the roles. It's the entire intention of the role.
No, 100%. I think before I move into the intricacies of what it's like to be a female in some of the industries that you've gone through, let's touch firstly on your current accolade. How does it feel to be recognized as one of 100 women? Help me say the title correctly. 100 global, 100 top 100 global inspirational women in mining.
There you go. I didn't even have to help you with that. Perfect. So this was announced maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm still in absolute awe of this happening. I was really surprised because, you know, I haven't been in the industry as long as some of those phenomenal women have been in the industry. So I'm honored, I'm humbled by it. It's huge for me, it's huge for my career as well. But I think the bigger thing, and Tabang, you and I relate on this level, is that it's huge because some little girl out there who looks like me, who perhaps doesn't even know what she wants to do with her life, maybe has looked at the mining industry, she could perhaps look at me and relate, right? Be able to relate, but also see that there's an avenue for someone like her in this industry. And that, for me, that's the platform that I'm going for right now.
And I think, you know, there's two main industries that I think you're connected to now, which is mining and tech. And I think both industries don't bode well for being a female. I think in the South African context, you probably have to contest it a little bit more because beyond being female, you're also black. And that's never been anything easy. I think if anyone walks into any given mine in South Africa, you will see just how deeply entrenched in, you know, customs like Afrikaans or languages like Afrikaans and customs of Afrikaans nature they can be. I mean, it's gotten a lot better over the years, but I think we still have to contest with a lot of that. But I can't imagine what it would be like to walk in, have to deal with that, and then also have to deal with the fact that you're now female in a world where you're expected to, you know, engage with predominant, you know, dominant men who pretty much run everything. So what's that experience been like for you?
Look, it's been a very interesting one, and we have a long way to go. Look, I'm the type of person, I don't let things like that stop me from what it is I want to pursue, but I also can't ignore that it's my reality at the same time. From the time that I've entered the industry, as you're saying, it has been predominantly male. You walk into a meeting and you're one of very few females. You walk into a panel session on a global scale, and you're also underrepresented over there. And I don't, just like you just said now, I don't want to just touch on the female side, but the reality of my life is I'm female, I'm black, and I'm usually the youngest person by maybe about 10 years, sometimes. And those are things that I fight on a daily. Specific examples that I can think of is the fact that, you know, in a room like that, leadership positions are not always easily afforded to females, right? So getting promotions are much more difficult than my male counterpart. Also having to work just a little bit harder, not even a little bit, a lot harder, to just assert your value, your presence and your dominance in a meeting is a lot of energy when you are the only female in that room. And that's often what I've had to do to get people to understand my worth, for them to recognize the things that I've done, and that I belong in this space. That's been quite a tough one. It's a daily struggle. It's something that I am seeing change with a lot of movements, you know, the UN and the Me Too movements, as well as Black Lives Matter. Those are things that we now need to get a lot more momentum on, but it is helping change the narrative.
Well, I think having witnessed you, you know, firsthand, worked in the same company with you, I've seen how you've been able to, you know, continuously excel with every task that you've been given. What advice do you have for other women, not just in your industry, but women in general, in terms of getting ahead in this world, which is still pretty much male-dominated?
Gosh, where does the advice stop, actually? I think the first thing definitely needs to come with a certain level of confidence and self-esteem. One of the things that I remember from the time I started in the industry was I needed to put on that confident, brave face, right? Regardless of how I was feeling that day. All right, so that was probably the first thing, and it's almost like the fake it till you make it. I don't quite believe in that. You're not faking it. You are actually trying to cultivate that confidence and self-esteem in real life, until it becomes something you naturally do anyways. That's probably the first thing. The other thing that I can think about that we don't talk about often, but find yourself a support system of people that actually want to see you thrive. It's not always easy, but I know when I started at AngloAmerican, I found yourself as well as others that were there in my corner to support me, and then try to weed out the ones that are not there to support you. You don't need that kind of negative energy, but you do need that support system. That support system works both ways, Tavon. I'm seeing that a lot of females will get themselves into a particular position, happily, great, fantastic, but what have you done to lift the next person up? And that's a thread that sadly I've seen in some roles where females will see each other as competition and then won't help each other out. We're not going to get anywhere if we're doing anything like that. So I would say that's another big thread, is while I find myself fortunately on this platform and where I am today, how am I helping the next few people that want to do the same thing?
Yeah. And I mean, I think another takeaway that I have with the journey that you've traveled is, look, even if you were male and a different race, your achievements would not be belittled. And I think with that, the question is, how do you move away from, having the female, prefix, suffix? The female suffix being put on every achievement you do, being the first female to do so on. Because I think even if you were not vying for a global 100, I see you being on, top 100 people, top 100 inspirational people within mining at some stage. So how do you move away from the fact that, well, not move away from it because you can't, but how do you get people to look beyond the fact that you're female and actually look at some of the achievements that you get? I'm
in two minds about this, Tavon. I almost feel like before we even get there, let's recognize the females. Let's call it what it is, because it is fundamentally harder for us anyways. There are so many disadvantages and biases already. Let's not ignore that, because I think once you start to say top everyone in mining, that's great. But let's not forget that yes, females have been disadvantaged for the longest time in these industries. So I would rather say, let's get that out there so it becomes very comfortable, and then we'll start to get into the collective naming of things. But at the moment, I would rather pull that out. Yeah. We are in this position for a particular reason. Let's recognize that females have been doing really well.
Yeah. And I mean, you've had to, for you to be able to achieve some of the stuff you've done, you've had to move away from your family. You've had to move to a different country. And I don't know, maybe this question is a little controversial.
I didn't expect anything less from you.
But yeah, so how have you been able to move past the traditional, and I'm using that because I don't personally believe it, but the traditional belief that, women are supposed to find a good husband, start a family, and take it from there. How do you then, with full confidence and with full acceptance from everyone, journey on this pathway? It's all about, making sure that you make the most out of your life for you and for your family, and not have people come back and say, but where's your husband? Where are your kids? How have you dealt with that?
So with that one, and it's not controversial at all, it's just reality. With that one, I would definitely say I've looked at my mom, right? My mom she's a nursing sister, a retired nursing sister, and the most selfless person I know. But she was the sole breadwinner in our family. She always made sure that we were never lacking, that we were just like the other kids, even though she was the only person bringing in an income. And that was throughout her marriage and then her partner after her marriage. These are things that she's done as a single woman on her own doing this. She was able to raise us, she was able to put food on the table, and then still be a career woman as well. Number one, it's highly possible. Number two, we don't have to be one thing, and there is no such thing as normal, is how I feel about this. We all have our own path in the way that we want to do things. She was let down by males in her life, and yet here we are today. She's raised two wonderful females. And I've watched her tenacity, I've watched her strength. So for me, it's not so much about getting past people's norms, it's about understanding that there isn't really a norm. Yeah. You all have your own path, you have your own situation and your own upbringing. And that's what I grew up around.
Yeah. No, I understand. Well, I guess beyond that, beyond everything that we've spoken about, what else is there to Michillay Brown?
Look, I know probably 80% of my life has at least looked like it's consisted of my career.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of other things and would like to continue doing a lot of other things as well. I think mentoring with yourself and the Unlikely Role Models was something that we started together, and you've carried on so beautifully. And I'll always be plugged into that because mentorship is absolutely important to me. It can start at home. You don't have to be part of a formal program, and then it can branch out into anything else. But I feel very strongly about empowering the youth, and that's a big thing for me. Outside of that, I've got a huge passion for dancing. So I was a ballerina from the time I was 3 years old. I then stopped before I moved over to the UK, but still very plugged in with both friends and affiliations that have to do with the arts. I think one of the big things that I've seen during COVID now is how much arts and entertainment have suffered the most. So I think it's been one of my aspirations going forward to start to look into NGOs and youth programs that have to do with the arts and entertainment. Yes, I'm very career focused, but and very sciences focused, tech focused, but there's also other industries that I admire so much because of my background. And then there's just general sports and taking up new things. I will probably be in the UK for some time, but I'd like to pick up a couple of things. One of the things I've been doing lately is golf, another male-dominated sport. There's a bit of a trend here. No, I genuinely enjoy the golf, and that's something that I'd like to pursue as an ongoing hobby. And again, very few females doing it, so
yeah. I mean, again, as one of your closest friends, I have to say there's so many facets, and I think unfortunately, we need to pick one every time for something like this for the time duration. But I mean, I can't wait for us to have you back, just to touch on some of the other things that you mentioned, even maybe get into some of your careers a little bit more, just to see what exactly is your day-to-day and something like that. But I think now with everything that we've spoken about today, if you can take a moment, just to think of little girls all over South Africa, and maybe for this one, speak straight into the camera. What is it that you want them to take away from, having someone like you or seeing someone like you achieve the things that you've achieved?
Thank you. I'll take it away.
Sure.
I'd like young girls to understand that their opportunities are limitless. Their own power and their own strength is completely limitless, and that's what I've been taught. Like I said, I've grown up with a powerful figurehead in my life who has shown me that every single thing is possible, but also that there are multiple opportunities out there. You just need to go and look for them. Look for the opportunities, look for the mentors. There are people around you, there are people like us that can help young females grow up within the society. I just want to stress the confidence and self-esteem aspect to this.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, guys, for taking the time to listen to us speak. What I will try to do is possibly, have some actual step-by-step guidances on some of the things that Michillay does. I mean, for one, something like Toastmasters has gone a long way in helping her, speak the way she does.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, and I think, just because I think when you speak to people normally and you're giving them advice, it helps to give them tangible things that they can do. So I think have a look in the description of the video for some of those tangibles. But until next time, Michillay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Devang. This was awesome. Thank you.
Bye, guys.